Mystical experience number 5. This one I'm going to go backwards a little bit because I was trying to do this in chronological order, but I remember little things. My father built our house that was our family home for my whole entire life into adulthood when I was 3.5 to 4.5. It was built along a creek, and the house was here, and then there was a steep slope going down to the creek that was about 100 feet, probably 150 feet. So there was the steep slope, and nobody had built because it was such a steep slope. And they were building the house, and my father was out working with the house. And I was just sitting in the back, and I was sitting next to a tree, and in the middle of this yard down by the creek there was this huge old tree, really, really old tree. It was so old that it was, had been struck by lightning, and there were parts of it that looked like it was starting to die, but it was still alive, and it was still green at the top, but it was looking old. It was looking a little bit old. And I was sitting there just staring at the tree, and all of a sudden I could see the tree, and it looked like a face went like this out of the tree and looked at me and smiled and then went back, and then came out the other side and looked at me and smiled and went back. And I was like, who is that? And I was like, it's a tree fairy. It's a tree fairy. I was sure of it. It was a tree fairy. And I go running down, and once again, I'm a little kid. I'm 3.5, 4, somewhere in there. And I start playing with this fairy that was the fairy of that particular tree. It was so powerful. It was so beautiful. And I remember playing with her and us laughing, and she showed me where the bobcats lived, and she showed me where the carp hung out, and she also showed me the place where the cottonmouths, which were snakes, would come out, and to be really careful of that. And so it was just this really powerful experience with her, and I adored her. And we played at the creek, and I would run down to the creek and I would play with her every single day for years. For years I would go down to the creek and play with her. When I got into my 20s, I came home from living in Germany, and the tree was gone. And I burst into tears crying. And I was like, the tree fairy died, oh my God. And my mother said this huge storm came in, and the creek filled up, and it washed the tree completely over. And then they broke it into pieces and brought the wood up to the house and everything. And I was just devastated. And until that moment, I didn't realize that I had never told my mother about the tree fairy, but I was like a child. I was hysterical that this tree fairy had died and that she was no longer there because she was a part of this very old ancient tree. So once again, it's like when I was seeing her, it's like, there's such a fullness of life, such a fullness of energy. I still to this day believe tree fairies are real, but I believe that they're more powerful in the older trees. And so when you go to the areas where there's the big old trees or places that are ancient and timeless, that there's something magical there. And for years I would actually draw trees, and I would draw the bark because I believed inside every tree and in the bark somewhere there's a face. And that face is the face of that tree fairy staring back out at you.